Number 1022. That is where Meghan Markle's much-hyped lifestyle show landed on the Netflix viewership charts. Not 122, not even 522, 1022. The streaming giant has officially pulled the plug, dispensing with her services in what industry insiders are calling the most humiliating dismissal in Netflix's history of celebrity partnerships. And folks, the numbers do not lie, no matter how desperately Meghan's team tries to spin them. With Love Meghan pulled a pathetic 2.4 million views total, while her second season somehow managed to perform even worse, crawling to position 1224. Let that sink in for a moment. This is a woman who convinced herself she could sell anything to anyone, who believed her star power was so blindingly obvious that Netflix should consider themselves lucky to have her. The reality? She could not even crack the top 1,000. But here is where this disaster transforms into something truly spectacular. Sources reveal that Meghan's response to these catastrophic numbers was not humble reflection or professional accountability. No, that would require the kind of self-awareness she has never demonstrated. Instead, according to multiple insiders, Meghan allegedly screamed at Netflix executives, demanding they somehow fix her father's situation or suffer for it. Allow me to translate that for you. Her show was bombing, her brand was collapsing, and her brilliant strategy was to threaten the very people who had given her a platform in the first place. The executives reportedly sat in stunned silence as she ranted about how the network owed her protection after investing so much in promotion. One Netflix insider put it bluntly, she genuinely believed we should drop everything and become her personal public relations crisis team. The entitlement was breathtaking, even by Hollywood standards. Another source described the meeting as uncomfortable, does not begin to cover it. She made demands like she was still a working royal with an institution behind her. She is not. She is a content creator whose content nobody wants to watch, and they are absolutely right. The disconnect between Meghan's perception of her own importance and the cold reality of her viewership numbers is genuinely staggering. The irony here is almost too perfect. This is the same woman who complained endlessly about the royal family not protecting her, about the palace not issuing statements on her behalf, about an institution that supposedly failed to defend her at every turn. Now she is making the exact same demands of a streaming service. The pattern could not be clearer if she drew it in neon lights. Everyone else is responsible for her problems. Everyone else must fix what she breaks. Everyone else must sacrifice to maintain her carefully constructed image. But the real bombshell is what Meghan is planning next, and it proves beyond any shadow of doubt that she has learned absolutely nothing from this catastrophe. Netflix insiders are now breaking their silence, and what they are revealing paints a picture of dysfunction so profound it makes her royal exit look like a minor disagreement. The decision to drop Meghan was not simply about the numbers, though those alone would have justified termination 10 times over. It was about behavior so impossible, so demanding, so utterly divorced from reality that executives reportedly dreaded every interaction with her team. One source familiar with the situation described it as exhausting on a level I have never experienced in 30 years in this industry. She treated us like servants, not partners. The network had invested heavily in promotion for Harry and Meghan's projects. We are talking millions of dollars in marketing, prime placement on the platform, the kind of support most content creators would sacrifice a limb to receive. And how did Meghan repay this investment? According to those close to the negotiations, she expected Netflix to protect their investment and save her bacon whenever negative press emerged. She genuinely believed that because they had spent money promoting her, they now owed her unlimited reputation management services. Ted Sarandos, Netflix's co-chief executive officer and the man who championed bringing the Sussexes to the platform, has gone completely silent on all matters Meghan. This is the same executive who once publicly stated he believed Meghan could sell anything to anyone, who positioned her as a transformative talent who would bring unprecedented value to Netflix's content library. Now, he will not even say her name in meetings, according to one insider. Her projects have become something of an inside joke at the company. When something bombs spectacularly, people whisper, "Is this a Meghan situation?" That is her legacy at Netflix. She has become shorthand for expensive failure. Perhaps most telling is that Bloomberg recently reached out to Meghan's team about her business future, suggesting even major financial outlets sense blood in the water. When Bloomberg starts asking questions about your commercial viability, you know the sharks are circling. They do not write puff pieces. They write obituaries for careers that have flatlined. And yet, despite this humiliation, despite numbers so bad they would make most people question their life choices, sources say Meghan views these disasters as mere hiccups that happen to all entrepreneurs. Let us be brutally honest here. Hiccups do not land you at position 1022. Hiccups do not result in a streaming giant washing their hands of you entirely. What Meghan experienced is not a hiccup. It is a catastrophic failure of judgment, execution, and self-awareness. But of course, in her mind, the next venture is already being planned, the next reinvention already underway. And what Netflix did behind the scenes to minimize their losses reveals just how little faith they had left in their former star. Here is something that has not been widely reported, and it exposes the depth of Netflix's disillusionment with their Sussex investment. The streaming giant never rehired the house for season 2. They did not bring back the production team for new shoots. They did not invest a single additional dollar in fresh content. Instead, they used existing footage, creating what insiders are calling fakery to fulfill their contractual obligation, without throwing good money after bad. One production source described it as the bare minimum approach. They had already made the second series when season 1 flopped, so they dumped both out rather than invest another cent. They just wanted to be done with her. Think about what that means for a moment. Netflix, a company that routinely spends hundreds of millions on content they believe in, looked at Meghan Markle and decided she was not worth the cost of a location rental. They had footage sitting in a vault, and they slapped it together just to wash their hands of the entire arrangement. That is not a partnership. That is not a creative collaboration. That is a corporation cutting its losses with surgical precision while trying to maintain some semblance of professionalism. Meghan's team continues claiming she sold millions of jars of jam through her show's promotion. Millions of jars. If that were remotely true, if her show had driven even a fraction of that commercial activity, Netflix's logic would have demanded renewal. Streaming services love content that moves product because it creates measurable return on investment they can point to in board meetings. The fact that they dropped her despite these alleged millions tells you everything you need to know about how seriously anyone takes those claims. Either the numbers are fabricated, or the jam sales came despite the show, not because of it. The chaos surrounding her father's leg amputation during the holiday special launch should have driven what industry analysts call morbid curiosity viewership. When controversy swirls around a personality, people typically tune in just to see what all the fuss is about. This is entertainment industry 101. Yet even that dramatic backdrop could not push with Love Meghan into the top 1,000. Sources say executives were genuinely baffled by this. "We thought the father situation would at least generate hate-watching numbers," one admitted. The fact that it did not means people simply do not care about her. Apathy is worse than hatred in this business. Industry analysts have noted something that deserves serious attention. Any other talent would have been dropped after the first season. The rope Netflix gave Meghan was extraordinary, the patience unprecedented. They wanted her to succeed because her success meant their judgment in signing her would be validated. Instead, she proved that sometimes a bad investment is just a bad investment, no matter how much you believe in the brand. But the catastrophic numbers are only part of this story. And what Meghan allegedly did in the executive boardroom reveals a pattern of behavior that should terrify anyone considering working with her. A Netflix insider has now revealed details of Meghan's explosive confrontation with executives, and the account reads like something from a corporate horror story. According to this source, Meghan demanded that the network make the stories about her father go away or face unspecified consequences. She allegedly sat across from senior executives and issued what amounted to threats, expecting a streaming service to somehow control the global media narrative about her estranged family. The quote currently circulating through Hollywood says it all. Meghan knew the network had invested a lot of money, and she wanted them to save her bacon. She could not separate her personal drama from her professional obligations. For those unfamiliar with how entertainment contracts work, allow me to explain why this is so extraordinary. Netflix's job is to produce and distribute content. They are not a public relations firm. They are not a crisis management agency. They are not personal reputation defenders. Expecting them to silence journalists, influence news coverage, or somehow erase inconvenient family members from public consciousness demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of what a business partnership actually involves. But then again, misunderstanding basic professional boundaries seems to be Meghan's specialty. This behavior mirrors exactly what she allegedly did with the royal family. Sources who were present during her time at the palace claim she once begged Queen Elizabeth and Prince Charles to make her father's stories disappear. She reportedly expected the full weight of the British monarchy's influence to be deployed in service of her personal image management. The late Queen's response then was identical to Netflix's response now. "Fix your own problems. Go see your father yourself. We are not your personal cleanup crew." The parallels are almost eerie in their precision. One insider summarized it perfectly. She has the audacity to make her problems everyone else's responsibility while refusing to take any initiative herself. Her father is elderly. He has lost a leg. He has repeatedly expressed a desire for reconciliation, and her response is to demand that billion-dollar corporations somehow make him invisible, rather than simply picking up a phone. The cognitive dissonance required to maintain this position is genuinely impressive in its scope. What makes this even more damaging is how quickly these stories spread through Hollywood. Entertainment executives talk to each other. They compare notes on difficult talent. They share warnings about creators who make unreasonable demands. Meghan's Netflix meltdown is now legendary in certain circles, a cautionary tale about what happens when you mistake fame for leverage and entitlement for star power. But while Meghan was busy threatening Netflix executives, her husband was creating his own headlines in a London courtroom, and the timing could not have been worse for either of them. While Meghan's Netflix dreams were crumbling to dust, Prince Harry was 3,000 miles away making headlines for all the wrong reasons in his seemingly endless legal crusade against British tabloids. His court testimony was supposed to demonstrate the harm caused by press intrusion, to present him as a sympathetic victim of media overreach. Instead, it became a masterclass in courtroom dysfunction that left observers cringing and journalists scrambling to capture every awkward moment. Harry claimed newspapers made Meghan's life absolute misery during their time as working royals. The emotion in his voice was unmistakable, the pain apparently genuine. But here is where things went sideways in spectacular fashion. The judge repeatedly instructed him to stop emoting and simply answer the questions put to him. This is court, not therapy. One legal observer noted, he seemed incapable of providing direct answers without lengthy emotional monologues attached. His testimony was supposed to last all day. It ended after just 2 hours following what witnesses described as a tearful outburst that served no legal purpose whatsoever. The courtroom drama briefly distracted from Meghan's Netflix disaster, but insiders say she was furious that attention shifted to Harry. Sources close to the couple report she views media coverage as a zero-sum game, where any spotlight on her husband is spotlight stolen from her. She wanted him supporting her narrative, not creating his own headlines, one source revealed. The fact that his court appearance dominated news cycles while her show languished in obscurity apparently did not sit well. Critics have pointed out the obvious contradiction in Harry's testimony. He claimed Meghan experienced absolute misery from press coverage, yet her Instagram posts from that period show her beaming at the camera, dancing at events, and appearing to burst with joy at every opportunity. One commentator asked the devastating question, if she was so miserable, why did she post constantly on social media looking thrilled with life? Either the misery was exaggerated for legal purposes, or she is an actress of such extraordinary talent that she should have won every award available. You cannot have it both ways. The legal bills from Harry's various lawsuits continue mounting, adding financial pressure to an already strained situation. Every court appearance requires expensive representation. Every lost motion means money gone forever. And for what? To prove that newspapers were mean to him? The cost-benefit analysis makes no sense to anyone except perhaps Harry himself, who seems genuinely addicted to litigation as a form of therapy. But if you think the Netflix disaster has humbled Meghan or prompted any serious reflection about her career trajectory, her next planned venture will absolutely shock you. Despite the catastrophic Netflix failure, despite being dropped by Spotify before that, despite a track record of abandoned projects that would make most entrepreneurs question their calling, excellent sources reveal that Meghan sees her future in the world of high fashion. Yes, you read that correctly. The woman who just landed at position 1022 on streaming charts believes she is destined to become a fashion icon. The delusion is so complete, so utterly divorced from reality, that it would be admirable if it were not so cringeworthy. She has reportedly been inspired by her on and off friend Gwyneth Paltrow, and believes she can pivot like a true entrepreneur. Allow me to translate what that means. She saw Gwyneth build Goop into a controversial but undeniably successful lifestyle empire and thought, I can do that, but better. The small detail she seems to have missed is that Gwyneth spent decades building credibility, weathering criticism, and actually developing products people wanted to buy. Meghan wants the endpoint without the journey. Her appearances at Paris and Valencia fashion events last year apparently convinced her she had taken the fashion world by storm. One source close to her circle described her reaction. She came back from those trips absolutely convinced she was now a major player in fashion. The attention she received, the photographers calling her name, it all confirmed what she already believed about herself. The fact that photographers will shoot anyone adjacent to celebrity apparently did not factor into her analysis. Reports claim that Valentino's team allegedly wants Meghan at the late designer's memorial service because she has supposedly done so much for fashion. This claim has raised eyebrows across the industry. What exactly has she done for fashion? She wears clothes. She attends events. She poses for photographs. That does not make someone a fashion contributor. That makes someone a customer with a good publicist. But insiders are asking the devastating question that nobody in Meghan's orbit seems willing to voice. Who really sees Meghan Markle as a fashion icon? Who looks at her and thinks there is someone whose style I want to emulate? She believes the world does, one source admitted. She genuinely believes millions of women are studying her outfits and rushing to copy her looks. The evidence for this belief remains somewhat elusive, and her behavior surrounding fashion shoots reveals an entitlement so staggering it has left industry professionals absolutely speechless. Multiple sources have now confirmed a practice that has become infamous in fashion circles. Meghan demands to keep all clothing from every photo shoot she participates in. Not borrow, not return after the feature is published. Keep permanently. Her justification for this extraordinary demand reportedly centers on security concerns. She claims the clothes could fall into the wrong hands and be auctioned for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let that sink in for a moment. She genuinely believes her worn clothing carries the same value as Princess Diana's iconic wardrobe. For context, Princess Diana's clothing actually did sell for 6 figures at auction. But Diana was the mother of the future king. She was arguably the most photographed and beloved woman on the planet during her lifetime. Her fashion choices influenced millions, and her tragic death cemented her status as a cultural icon whose memory people cherish. Meghan married the spare who quit. The comparison is not just laughable, it is delusional on a level that genuinely concerns people who work with her. Her team has confirmed this arrangement, saying she does not want anyone else profiting from items she has worn. One fashion insider responded to this explanation with barely concealed amazement. The idea that her worn clothes would fetch 6 figures at auction is fantasy. At best, they might generate interest from a small collector community. At worst, they would sit unsold while everyone wonders why she thought herself so important. Diana spent years earning that status through genuine public service and connection with ordinary people. Meghan seems to want the recognition without the resume. The practice has reportedly caused friction with designers and fashion houses who normally expect items returned after shoots. These are often one-of-a-kind pieces, prototypes, or items from limited collections that have significant value beyond their association with any particular celebrity. Meghan's insistence on keeping everything has apparently led some fashion teams to simply decline working with her rather than lose inventory to what one called her personal archive of self-importance. What makes this even more telling is the contrast with how other celebrities handle similar situations. Most return clothing promptly and gratefully, understanding that the relationship benefits both parties. Some purchase items they particularly love. Very few demand to keep everything as though they're wearing it transforms ordinary fabric into priceless artifacts. But Meghan's fashion delusions are not her only bridge she has burned, and her treatment of one of the most famous families in entertainment has come back to haunt her in spectacular fashion. Meghan desperately tried to get Brooklyn Beckham on her Netflix cooking show, viewing the appearance as a way to legitimize her lifestyle brand and tap into the Beckham family's enormous following. There was just one problem. She had already burned that bridge by attacking his parents in ways that the family has neither forgotten nor forgiven. The Sussexes allegedly accused David and Victoria Beckham of selling stories about them to the press, accusations that David himself reportedly called total fabricated nonsense in private conversations. The accusation was particularly explosive because the Beckhams attended Harry and Meghan's wedding, had been considered friends of the couple, and had never done anything to warrant such suspicion. Victoria had even helped Meghan with beauty advice during her transition to royal life. For Meghan to then allegedly accuse them of media betrayal struck the Beckhams as both paranoid and ungrateful. One source close to the family said they were genuinely hurt and confused by the accusations. They had done nothing but support Meghan, and this was their reward. Now Oprah Winfrey is reportedly circling both families, hoping to secure explosive interviews about the fallout. The talk show queen apparently senses a ratings goldmine in the Sussex versus Beckham drama, particularly given how her previous Sussex interview generated massive viewership and cultural conversation. But David and Victoria Beckham want nothing to do with Oprah. Sources say they value their titles, their standing with the royal family, and their reputation far too much to participate in what they view as tabloid television dressed up as serious journalism. The Beckhams have reportedly maintained silence out of respect for the institution, and because they genuinely cannot be bothered engaging with what they see as manufactured drama. They have built a billion-dollar empire through actual work, actual talent, and actual business acumen. They do not need Oprah to validate their story, and they certainly do not need to address accusations they consider beneath them. Sources say Meghan feels vindicated by recent Beckham family drama, using it to justify why she ended the friendship. Whatever challenges the Beckhams face in their personal lives, they face them privately, without demanding the world take sides or streaming platforms issue protective statements. The contrast in approach could not be starker, and as Meghan continues burning bridges and alienating potential allies, the pressure on her marriage is becoming impossible to ignore. Tom Peck of The Times wrote something recently that captured what many observers have noticed but few have been willing to say publicly. Prince Harry looks 10 years older than his 41 years, despite living in sunny California where most British transplants end up looking younger from the vitamin D and relaxed lifestyle. Instead of the rejuvenated appearance most Brits who move to California achieve, Harry has somehow managed the opposite. He looks exhausted, aged, and perpetually stressed in every recent photograph and public appearance. Peck's observation carries a cutting theory. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to wrinkles, the constant litigation, the endless grievances, the perpetual victim mentality. All of it appears to be taking a physical toll that no amount of Montecito sunshine can counteract. When you spend every day preparing for court cases, fighting with newspapers, and nursing resentment toward your family, it shows on your face. Harry is living proof that bitterness ages you faster than time. Sources believe Harry and Meghan hype each other up in ways that are ultimately destructive, like gasoline and an open flame in their expensive Montecito bubble. Rather than calming each other's grievances, they reportedly validate every complaint, encourage every lawsuit, and reinforce every paranoid suspicion about media persecution. There is no moderating influence in that household, one insider observed. They feed each other's worst instincts and call it support. Their security bills alone are reportedly ungodly in scale, the kind of expenses that would strain even substantial wealth. Harry has been reduced to what critics call rent-a-prince appearances, showing up at real estate conventions and corporate events to discuss topics far removed from anything he has genuine expertise in. For a man who grew up in Kensington Palace and served in the British military, giving paid speeches at real estate gatherings must represent a particular kind of humiliation. The mansion itself, purchased for $14 million, sits in Montecito like a gilded prison. Beautiful beyond question, but increasingly isolated as former friends distance themselves and professional opportunities evaporate. The couple reportedly spends enormous sums maintaining a lifestyle that their current income cannot sustainably support, creating financial pressure that adds to an already stressful existence. And as the walls close in from every direction, the question everyone is asking is how much longer this can possibly continue. With Netflix done, Spotify behind her, and no major platform willing to bet on her future, Meghan Markle's entertainment career lies in smoldering ruins. The streaming giant that once championed her as a transformative talent now refuses to speak her name. The podcast platform that paid millions for her voice terminated the relationship, citing lack of productivity. The list of people willing to take a chance on Meghan Markle grows shorter with every passing month, every failed venture, every bridge burned in spectacular fashion. Yet she is already pivoting to fashion and cosmetics, convinced the world sees her as an icon despite literally all evidence to the contrary. Her viewership numbers say she is irrelevant. Her business partners say she is impossible. Her former friends say she is exhausting. And still she moves forward with absolute certainty that the next venture will be the one that proves everyone wrong. The self-belief would be inspiring, if it were not so disconnected from observable reality. Harry remains trapped in his legal crusade, spending what must be enormous sums fighting newspapers about coverage from years ago, while his wife plots her next reinvention from their $14 million mansion. He looks older than his years, appears perpetually stressed, and has reduced himself to corporate speaking engagements that would make his younger self cringe. This is what leaving the royal family has purchased. Not freedom, not happiness, not the peaceful private life they claim to want, just endless litigation and diminishing opportunities. The pattern is clear to everyone except apparently the two people living it. Blame everyone else. Learn nothing from failure. Expect the next venture to magically succeed where all others have collapsed. Threaten those who fail to meet demands. Burn bridges with anyone who offers honest feedback. Repeat until there is nobody left willing to extend an opportunity. So here is the question that hangs over everything. How many more industries will Meghan burn through before she finally runs out of people willing to give her a chance? She has exhausted Hollywood's patience. She has alienated the fashion world's goodwill. She has made herself unwelcome in circles that once eagerly embraced her celebrity. At some point, the list of people who have not yet been disappointed by working with her will simply run out. Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.